The 2010s were piracy's golden age. A third of internet traffic was BitTorrent. Facebook had fewer monthly users than LimeWire. Pirate Bay was the only movie store in town that guaranteed to have what you wanted. Hypothetically, the world was steadily migrating from physical to digital media, and even non-technical individuals knew that digital items could be replaced repeatedly with almost no marginal cost. At its peak, 95% of music downloads were pirated, since it was cheaper and easier to fill vast digital libraries made available by inexpensive digital storage. Then it stopped. The internet has become quicker, storage has gotten cheaper, and people are more comfortable with computers since 2012, which should have spurred development, but it didn't. P2P file sharing has declined since 2015. You may believe you know why streaming services like Spotify, Netflix were better, easier and safer. But now that they're worse and more expensive, piracy is back. It seems easy, right? Too bad that's not the complete story. Really, these firms knew this day would come. It was crucial they could pretend it wouldn't. Many people have decided to cut back legally. I may have to discontinue certain subscriptions I'm not using, which wastes money. These are so numerous that it's hard to count. And hostile connection. I don't want to pay for conflict. As I said, we want this business to develop the company and give our shareholders attractive margins. What stopped piracy and what's bringing it back? Though simple, there's more going on. First and foremost, most individuals want to lawfully buy material that's convenient and affordable. Even sailors know that making a song, film, movie, or video game takes time and money, and the people involved must be paid, or they won't make them. Australia's highest online piracy survey indicated that pirated content pirates were more likely to pay for it if available. Online pirates were more likely to buy movies and music through iTunes or Quick Fix, which aged the study. Pirated material consumers were more likely to consume content overall, and most would only visit the Bay if they couldn't find it legally. Two things changed after 2013. There were a few high-profile crackdowns on some of these sites, but even the authorities understood they were playing whack-a-mole. The Pirate Bay was one of the most downloaded files on the Pirate Bay, a complete clone of this site with all of its addresses that could be set up by anyone with minimal server hardware if the authorities knocked down the original site. However, better internet connections allowed streaming services to let customers watch content on demand without giving them direct access to digital files, which could be stolen and shared unlawfully. The main point was that these solutions were so easy and cheap compared to piracy and buying songs or movies individually that it didn't make sense to use anything else. That's altered. Dozens of streaming services raise prices annually. Your movies and shows are split between providers. Ads and less relevant material are making services worse, and it's just not easy anymore. Even TV shows have seasons split up over different streaming services, and the first step in watching a movie these days is to Google what streaming service has the 1984 release of Gremlins, and if you're unlucky, what streaming service plus VPN combo will get you the movie you want to watch. After all that effort, it's tempting to just replace streaming services with your port of choice. So streaming services were cheap and easy, which eradicated piracy, but then they became pricey and dreadful, which revived it. Pretty simple, right? Wrong. It's easy to dismiss this as ignorant companies being greedy to their detriment. That's part of the issue, but there's more. Meanwhile, music streaming is okay. Numerous services offer practically all the music you might want. Nobody pirates songs today, which is impressive considering that 15 years ago, 95% of music was pirated. Many artists are unhappy with the lesser earnings from streaming than physical record sales, but they accept it because even a tiny percentage is better than most of their music being free. This suggests an unpopular idea. Might not be streaming broken, maybe the film industry is broken. The streaming golden age was never supposed to continue. To understand why piracy is back, we must understand money. Netflix dominates movie and TV streaming worldwide. It has over 300 million paying customers and is lucrative, but they knew they would lose people to piracy from the start. They didn't care. Sorry, but you'll need financials to understand. Its $8.7 billion net income after taxes last year is excellent, but it doesn't warrant a valuation of over $500 billion. A corporation in an industry that has only been dominant for a decade cannot afford to wait 57 years for shareholders to see their investment pay off. This is how we watched movies 57 years ago, and it's unlikely we'll still be using their streaming services in 57 years. Now, most firm investors are stupid. They know Netflix's existing structure won't make them money. They hope to deliver a cheaper service that they can charge more for to increase margins. I'll ignore my big margins. That's a lovely shirt. Still manufacture it for men. Cutting content, boosting costs, and adding odd features like mobile games to the app are nothing new. They are part of a development plan the corporation recognized it had to implement since launching online streaming. Without competition, it would be much better. Good news on costs. As technology improves, network infrastructure costs less for the same capacity, lowering the cost to stream videos to users. Netflix's cost of revenue, adjusted for inflation, has been stable since 2022, despite adding almost 100 million new users. Besides servers and network infrastructure, the costs include licensing and producing their own movies, TV shows, and games. They're licensing less content for two reasons, which has raised their prices. First, the company trimmed costs, especially for content that wasn't attracting new customers. The second reason is that independent studios have created their own streaming services and want to keep their biggest IPs exclusive so they can force users to switch to their platform or pay for two or more streaming services. Netflix is slowly generating its own titles, but not enough to replace licensed content. Why does Netflix not care about piracy? Publicly they say they do, but piracy will affect their rival more than them if consumers can't discover a movie or show on Netflix and then pirate it. Netflix didn't lose anything because much of the content wasn't theirs to lose, and they didn't spend the money developing it. Pirate and Chill, a 2023 Journal of Economic Behavior and Organization Research, revealed that when movies left Netflix for another platform, piracy spiked by more than 20%. First, that's a great title for a professional journal article. Other than that, it illustrated why Netflix doesn't care about online piracy. Netflix's chief content officer famously declared that we must become movie studios faster than movie studios can become us to succeed. Netflix didn't support piracy that affected legacy movie companies and their libraries, but they weren't too upset behind closed doors. Another perspective is that Amazon doesn't promote shoplifting, but it damages their competitors more than it does them. Piracy has been a useful tactic for the organization through history. The company admitted in 2013 to collecting data from online piracy sites to determine what was popular and worth licensing. Netflix doesn't care about piracy, but what about Hollywood studios? They definitely do, and they punish IP theft fiercely, longer but in trouble. They could bring piracy back to the Dark Ages by concentrating their content on a single, easy platform. But that would likely be Netflix, which Disney would not allow after investing so much in their own service. However, competition will make the experience unpleasant for everyone, and likely lose more ground to the high seas. This fight couldn't be worse for these corporations. Music companies could play nice and make their stuff available almost everywhere, but cinema studios fought to the death for a reason. Music production is cheaper, and there are many other money streams outside selling songs and albums. Musicians can make up for streaming losses with tours, merchandising, and licensing partnerships. Movies have become more expensive to make, and cinema attendance has never really recovered after COVID-19. Ironically, Taylor Swift's Periods Tour was one of the biggest theater releases in the past 5 years for a music studio. Mid-budget movies could make a lot of money back through DVD sales, so dismal box office wouldn't matter. That's plainly obsolete. So studios are pushing their streaming services harder to make up the deficit. There are hundreds of billions of dollars in market cap at stake with this daring strategy. Executives want to pretend it will work out, but if it doesn't, what can be learned from the music industry, which didn't combat piracy, but made it unnecessary? First, movies are too pricey for the market. Studios know that people only go to the movies for special occasions because it's expensive. The theater experience isn't good, and they can wait a month and watch it for free on one of their streaming services. Instead of cutting costs and putting less in one basket, they've doubled down on huge blockbusters. 19 of the 20 most costly movies were released in the last decade after streaming became ubiquitous. These figures only cover the production budget, not the marketing budget, and the box office revenue doesn't include movie theater payments. Even with generous estimations of such deals, only half of these releases got their money back, and others, like Snow White, Dial of Destiny, and Mission Impossible, are disasters. Studio executives have justified flagship films to investors by citing their IP worth, which can be retrieved by attracting users to their streaming services. That's not happening. If the video has served as a source of reflection for you, don't forget to watch the others and subscribe to the channel.